April 14, 1945. 1,100 hours. 8 miles northwest of Peterhead, Scotland. The North Atlantic rolls dark and cold above the steel hull of U-1206. Inside, 49 men breathe recycled air that tastes of diesel, sweat, and machine oil. The only sounds, the rhythmic ping of the hydrophones, the low hum of electric motors, the creak of riveted plates under pressure. Kapitänleutnant Karl-Adolf Schlitt stands in the control room, hands clasped behind his back, watching the depth gauge hold steady at periscope depth. 27 years old. This is his first patrol as a U-boat commander. His crew doesn't know that. They see the Knight's Cross candidate, the officer who graduated top of his class, the man hand-picked to command one of the Kriegsmarine's most advanced submarines. U-1206 is a Type VIC boat, but not just any Type VIC. She's been retrofitted with experimental technology that makes her the envy of the wolf pack. New sonar. Improved snorkel apparatus. And a high-pressure toilet system so revolutionary, so complex, that only specially trained engineers are authorized to operate it. In the cramped world of a U-boat, where 70 days submerged means 70 days of impossible intimacy, even waste disposal becomes a matter of survival. The old system was simple: collect, compress, eject overboard using compressed air. But simple systems have depth limits. Below 50 meters, external water pressure makes ejection impossible. The new system changes everything. A series of valves, levers, and pressure chambers that can flush waste even at combat depth. German engineering at its finest, assuming you follow the procedure exactly. Schlitt moves aft through the narrow corridor, past bunks stacked 3 high where off-duty sailors sleep fully clothed, past the galley where yesterday's cabbage still lingers in the air, past the radio room where the Enigma machine sits silent and shrouded. He reaches the officer's head. The small compartment gleams with polished brass fittings and incomprehensible valve configurations. A laminated instruction sheet hangs on the bulkhead, 14 steps, each one critical, each one precisely sequenced. Schlitt has used regular toilets his entire life. He's navigated U-boats through minefields, survived depth charge attacks during training exercises, commanded men in combat. How complicated can a toilet be? He closes the door behind him. Outside, the Atlantic waits. Inside, 49 men go about their duties, unaware that in the next 8 minutes, everything will change. The captain reaches for the first valve. Schlitt studies the valve sequence. Lever A to position 1. Valve B counterclockwise 3 full turns. Pressure equalization chamber C. Wait, or was it chamber D first? The instruction sheet might as well be written in Sanskrit. German engineering loves precision, loves complexity, loves systems within systems. What the engineers in Kiel didn't love was simplicity. What they definitely didn't account for was a commander's pride. He should call for the specialist. Obermaschinenstänmet Willi, the only man aboard certified to operate this gleaming monument to over-engineering. But Willi is currently wedged into the engine room, 3 compartments aft, elbow deep in a temperamental diesel injector. And Schlitt is the captain. Captains don't need assistants to use a toilet. He turns what he thinks is the correct valve. Something hisses. That seems right. He pulls the flush lever. The mechanism engages with a satisfying mechanical chunk. Nothing happens. That he tries again. Still nothing. The waste sits there, mocking him, mocking German precision, mocking the entire concept of advanced naval engineering. Schlitt makes his decision. If the system won't cooperate, he'll force it. He grips the emergency override, the red-handled valve clearly marked with warnings in 3 languages, and yanks it open. The universe holds its breath for exactly half a second. Then the sea comes in, not a trickle. Not a leak. A pressurized jet of North Atlantic seawater exploding through the toilet bowl with the force of a fire hose. Ice-cold brine erupts into the compartment, soaking Schlitt instantly, blasting across the deck plates, flooding through the door seal he forgot to dog properly in his hurry. He lunges for the valves, any valve, every valve, spinning them frantically in directions that only make it worse. The instruction sheet, now thoroughly soaked, peels off the bulkhead and swirls away in the rising water. Alarm! Schlitt's voice cracks as he stumbles out of the compartment into the passageway. Flooding in the officer's head. Men appear instantly from every direction, their faces transforming from routine boredom to combat alertness in a heartbeat. Willie arrives at a dead run, coveralls still stained with diesel, and pushes past the captain into the flooded compartment. It takes him 4 seconds to assess the situation. 4 seconds to realize what has happened. 4 seconds for his face to go absolutely white. "Herr Calhoun," he says quietly, water up to his ankles now, the toilet discharge flows directly over the battery compartment. Time stops. Everyone knows what that means. Everyone has heard the stories. U-boats run on massive banks of lead-acid batteries when submerged, batteries that power the electric motors, the lights, the ventilation, everything that keeps 49 men alive beneath hundreds of feet of ocean. Lead-acid batteries that produce hydrogen gas when functioning normally. Lead-acid batteries that produce chlorine gas when exposed to seawater. Chlorine gas. The same poison the Germans themselves unleashed at Ypres in 1915. The same yellow-green death that melted lungs and turned men into drowning victims on dry land. From below their feet, through the deck plates, comes a new sound. A crackling, bubbling, chemical hiss that every submariner knows means one thing: the batteries are flooding. And somewhere in the darkness of the battery compartment, invisible but inevitable, the gas is already forming. The first wisps appear through the ventilation grills like yellow fog crawling up from hell itself. Gas. Chlorine gas. Someone screams it, and the word ricochets through the submarine's steel intestines like a ricocheting bullet. Men who were running toward the flooding now reverse course, stumbling over each other, grabbing anything that might serve as a mask, shirts, rags, their own hands pressed desperately against nose and mouth. That it doesn't help. Nothing helps. Chlorine doesn't care about improvised filters. In the control room, the watch officer, Oberleutnant Zur C. Hartmann, makes the fastest calculation of his life. They're at 70 meters depth. The boat is filling with poison. There's no ventilating chlorine gas at depth. No filtering it. No outrunning it in the confined steel coffin of a U-boat. They have one option. Blow all tanks. Emergency surface. The chief engineer slams levers forward without hesitation. Compressed air screams into the ballast tanks with a roar that drowns out everything else. U-1206 tilts upward at a sharp angle. Men not holding onto something slide backward. Tools, coffee cups, loose equipment, everything careens aft in a metallic avalanche. The depth gauge needle spins counterclockwise. 60 meters. 50. 40. In the battery compartment, seawater continues its chemical assault. The gas thickens. It's heavier than air, pooling in low spaces, creeping through every corridor, every junction, every crack in every seal. Men in the aft torpedo room start coughing, wet, ragged sounds that turn into choking, then gagging. 30 meters. 20. Schlitt grips a valve wheel in the control room, his uniform still dripping, his face a mask of controlled horror. This is his command. His first patrol. His mistake. Every man aboard trusted him to bring them home, and he's killing them with a toilet. 10 meters. Prepare for surface. Hartmann barks. Lookouts ready. Gun crew stand by. Because surfacing in daylight in enemy-controlled waters isn't salvation. It's just trading one death for another. 5 meters, the chlorine is everywhere now. Yellow tendrils wrap around electrical cables, seep into clothing, burn eyes and throats. A young machinist named Klaus, 18 years old, 3 months out of training, collapses against the diesel engine, retching violently. His friend drags him toward the ladder, both of them half-blind with chemical tears. U-1206 breaks the surface like a breaching whale, seawater cascading off her conning tower, her hull plate streaming brine. The emergency hatch flies open and men pour out into the daylight, gasping, choking, grateful for air that doesn't burn. Schlitt is the last to emerge, as tradition demands. He pulls himself onto the bridge, squinting against sudden daylight after hours of red emergency lighting, and takes his first breath of fresh Atlantic air. It tastes like failure, then the lookout's voice cuts through the chaos, sharp with terror. Aircraft. Bearing 320. Closing fast. Schlitt's head snaps around. There, silhouetted against the grey Scottish sky, black shapes growing larger by the second. The angular wings, the distinctive profiles, British patrol bombers. Of course they're here. U-1206 surfaced like a firework, announcing her position to every Allied radar and spotter plane within 50 miles. The British have been hunting U-boats in these waters for 6 years. They're very, very good at it. And U-1206, wallowing on the surface, poison gas still venting from her open hatches, half her crew incapacitated, is the easiest target they'll see all week. The klaxon for air attack begins its wailing cry. Gun crews stumble to their stations, still coughing, still half-blind. Schlitt grips the bridge rail and watches the aircraft come. 0.8 seconds. That's how long he held the wrong valve open. 0.8 seconds to doom them all. The first aircraft screams overhead at 200 feet, close enough that Schlitt can see the RAF roundels on its wings, close enough to hear the engine roar over the wind. No bombs. Not yet. It's a reconnaissance pass, the pilot radiating their position, calling in the killers, circling back for a proper attack run. All hands abandon ship. Hartmann's voice carries across the deck. There's no debate, no consultation with the captain. The mathematics are simple and brutal. They can't dive, the boat's full of poison. They can't fight, half the crew can barely stand. They can't run, the diesels need time to start, time they don't have. They can only swim, men pour out of the hatches now, not in ordered evacuation but in desperate flight. They hit the water in groups, still wearing their leather jackets, their boots, everything that will drag them down. The North Atlantic in April is 4 degrees Celsius, cold enough to kill in 15 minutes even without drowning, but 4 degrees is better than chlorine. 4 degrees is better than bombs. Schlitt watches his crew abandon ship, each man a separate indictment. Willie, the engineer who tried to save them. Klaus, still coughing blood-tinged foam, supported by 2 shipmates. The radio operator who burned the code books before leaving, even with poison in his lungs, professional to the end. 49 men trusted him. 49 men followed him into the Atlantic on a patrol that was supposed to make his career. Now they're scattered across the waves like human debris, swimming for their lives, waiting for Scottish fishing boats or hypothermia, whichever comes first. The aircraft is coming back. Lower this time. Combat altitude. Her Kowloon. Hartmann grabbed Schlitt's arm. We have to go. Now. But Schlitt can't move. He's watching U-1206 settle deeper in the water, her bow already submerged, her stern lifting as the flooded forward compartments pull her down. 7 million Reichsmarks of advanced German engineering. Months of construction. Years of design. The revolutionary high-pressure toilet system that was supposed to give U-boats unlimited depth capability. All of it dying because he was too proud to ask for help. Captain. Hartmann physically shoves him toward the ladder. The aircraft's engine note changes pitch, the sound of a dive bombing run beginning. They hit the water together, the cold so intense it stops Schlitt's breath mid-gasp. His body tries to inhale and can't. His heart stutters. Every nerve screams. This is how you die in the North Atlantic, not from drowning but from shock, from cold so absolute it simply switches your body off. He forces himself to move. Swim. Kick. Anything to generate heat, to stay conscious, to survive the mistake that's killing him. Behind them, U-1206 groans, the sound of bulkheads collapsing, compartments flooding, steel surrendering to physics. Her stern rises higher, propellers exposed to the air, still and silent. For a moment she hangs there, vertical, a monument to hubris. Then she slides beneath the waves. No explosion. No drama. Just a quiet acceptance of defeat, the ocean closing over her like a grave. The aircraft releases its bombs anyway, twin splashes 100 meters away, the underwater detonation sending pressure waves through the water that feel like punches to Schlitt's chest. But they're insurance bombs, confirmation kills. U-1206 is already gone. The crew floats in clusters, holding onto each other, sharing body heat, sharing silence. Some pray. Some curse. Some just stare at the oil slick spreading across the surface, the last blood of their boat, rainbowing in the pale sunlight. Schlitt treads water and counts heads. 47. 48. 49. Everyone made it out. Everyone survived his catastrophic failure. He doesn't know if that makes it better or worse. Scottish fishing boats appear on the horizon 20 minutes later, their crews hardened men who've pulled German sailors from these waters before. They haul the survivors aboard without ceremony, wrap them in wool blankets, pour hot tea that tastes like salvation. Schlitt is the last to be pulled from the water. As tradition demands. The interrogation room in the prisoner of war facility near Aberdeen is small, grey, and utterly without mercy. 2 British naval intelligence officers sit across from Kapitänleutnant Karl-Adolf Schlitt, notebooks open, faces professionally neutral. "Let me understand this correctly," the senior officer says in perfect German. "Your U-boat was lost due to a malfunction in the lavatory facilities?" Schlitt nods. There's no point lying. His crew has already been separated and questioned. The story, impossible, humiliating, undeniable, is already out. The British officers exchange glances. One of them coughs into his fist, a sound that might be covering a laugh. "And you, as commander, attempted to operate this high-pressure toilet system, without proper training?" "Yes. Despite having a specialist aboard specifically trained for this purpose?" "Yes." The younger officer writes something in his notebook. Schlitt catches a glimpse, pride underlined twice. They ask more questions, technical details about U-1200 success systems, patrol orders, departures from Christiansand. Routine debriefing of a captured commander. But they keep coming back to it, unable to help themselves, these professional warriors who've spent 6 years fighting the Kriegsmarine's wolf packs. The Germans lost a submarine. To a toilet, Schlitt spends the rest of the war in a POW camp in northern England, playing chess, teaching mathematics to fellow prisoners, and never, not once, discussing what happened. His crew doesn't discuss it either. It's an unspoken agreement among the 49 survivors. Some shames are too profound for words. The war ends 4 weeks after U-1206 sinks. Hitler is dead. The Reich is ashes. The U-boat war that killed 30,000 German submariners and 30,000 Allied merchant sailors is finally over. In the accounting of those losses, the hundreds of boats lost to depth charges, to aircraft, to mines, to collision, to pure bad luck in a war fought in the dark depths, U-1206 gets a single line in British naval records. Sunk by own mechanical failure. Crew survived. Cause, operator error, sanitation system. The truth is slightly more specific. But military records prefer discretion. Decades later, when historians piece together the fate of every U-boat, when they interview survivors and cross-reference German and Allied documents, the story emerges. It spreads through naval circles like a cautionary tale, then beyond, into books, documentaries, internet forums. The submarine that refused to sink until its own toilet destroyed it. People laugh. Of course they laugh. It's absurd, darkly comic, the kind of story that seems too ridiculous to be real. But the men who were there, the 49 who swam in 4-degree water while their boat disappeared beneath them, they don't laugh. They remember the yellow-green gas. The emergency surface into enemy airspace. The 20 minutes in the North Atlantic waiting to die. They remember that modern technology, no matter how advanced, is only as reliable as the human beings operating it. And they remember the lesson that every warrior learns eventually, usually the hard way. Pride kills faster than the enemy ever could. Karl-Adolf Schlitt survived the war, returned to Germany, lived a quiet life, and died in 2009 at the age of 90. He never commanded another vessel. He never spoke publicly about U-1206. When asked about his wartime service, he would simply say he served in the Kriegsmarine and change the subject. Some failures are too perfect to forgive. U-1206 still rests somewhere on the floor of the North Atlantic, 8 miles northwest of Peterhead. The chlorine gas is long dissipated. The batteries are corroded to nothing. But the toilet, the revolutionary high-pressure toilet system that was supposed to change submarine warfare, remains, perfectly preserved in the cold darkness. A monument. A warning. A punchline to history's cruelest joke, and if you haven't already, subscribe to WW2 Battlefields and turn on notifications. We are dedicated to rescuing stories like U-1206 from the dusty footnotes of history. Every week, we dive into the archives to bring you tales of impossible courage, tactical brilliance, and ordinary men who did extraordinary things on the battlefields of World War II. Now, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us, where are you watching from today? Did someone in your family serve in the U-boat fleet, or survive the Battle of the Atlantic? Just let us know you're here. You're not just a viewer, you're part of the community keeping the memory of these warriors alive. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering. End.